the last time I could feel that power in my hands, beat of the drums rushing through my skin.
He's looking to attack and he hammers!
This is a rivalry that has stemmed over the last decade. A lot of close encounters and a few upsets in there as well.
Gino, get it to the ring, denied! It's no pass!
It's playoff time in the BBL, and first up, we're in Leicester for the deciding second leg of the quarterfinal matchup between the Riders and the Sharks, and it is the defending playoff champs that are in the box seat. Welcome to a packed Morningside Arena here in Leicester. It is an expectant crowd, as it always is, of course, a franchise used to success. Are we going to see more this season? Drew Lasker, Kieran Achara, good to see you both. Drew, playoff time, well, it's crunch time, isn't it?
Well, if the lead up into the postseason was the meat and potatoes, this is the dessert. Everything is magnified. Every possession matters, and if you don't come in here with the right mindset, you will get sent home.
The Riders bring a 9-point lead back home, so that's a tall order for Sheffield, but it's doable, isn't it?
It's definitely doable. Like, most teams in this league can put up 9 points in 3 to 4 minutes. But Sheffield Sharks have been really struggling with their scoring, so they're really going to have to kind of walk in their defence and try and keep the Leicester Riders under 70 points. But that's not happened this season at home for the Leicester Riders. So the closest it's been to that is 71 points, and that was against the Sheffield Sharks. So let's fingers crossed for the Sheffield Sharks tonight.
Now, both these teams locking up their playoff spots weeks ago. All that needed to be determined in the final week of the regular season was the seedings. Leicester, well, they finished number 2 above Bristol, courtesy of their scoring differential. Sheffield tied Manchester's tally, but the Giants won their head-to-head in their series, so they took the 6th spot, dropping the Sharks to the 7th seed. It was equal records for Caledonia and Cheshire too, with the Gladiators winning the tiebreaker and securing the higher finish. London, well, they locked down the title a month ago with a record at 6 games left to play and the number 1 seed. So the real drama surrounded that very last playoff spot. And it was the Eagles who stole it with victory over the Patriots in the very last game of the regular season. Drew Lasker, scale of 1 to 10. What was the party like after that win?
Exactly like I've been saying all along. The Eagles will make the playoffs.
Never in doubt. The party didn't last very long, though, because London in complete control against Newcastle after that first leg. Game 2 on Monday is in Crystal Palace, incidentally. As we said, it's evenly poised in our game after the first leg in Sheffield. Manchester travel to Bristol for the second leg of their quarterfinal. A huge 26 points to claw back. That was a 4 p.m. tip-off today at the half. Bristol have extended that lead, 47-43. The Flyers lead the Giants and look like they are firmly into the semi-finals. And in the 4-3-5 matchup, Cheshire have won through after grueling back-to-back games on Friday and Saturday. So lots to unpick. Let's start with the Gladiators, Kieran. Damage done in the first leg, but it is a tough task, a tall order to play back-to-back games with that kind of travel.
You know, it was less than 24-hour turnaround. No, it really is a tough task, but at the same time, both teams had to do it, and Cheshire Phoenix found a way to advance.
Cheshire into the semi-finals, Drew, and likely playing against London unless we see a miracle from Newcastle on Monday. That's going to be a fascinating encounter, isn't it?
The way Cheshire is playing right now, they're a scary fit. Obviously, we know the injuries that they've gone through, but they got a 7-man rotation, and they are thriving.
Manchester in action right now, but not at the races, as we've heard, and look like they're crashing out. Given that we hyped them up as a seriously dangerous playoff side for much of the season, how disappointed are you that they have faded so fast?
You know what? I'm going to have to give credit to Bristol Flyers. Forget about the Manchester Giants right now. Bristol Flyers are playing a high-level basketball, and they're the scary team to be facing in these playoffs.
Well, they look like they're rolling into the semi-finals, so we'll be seeing plenty more of them. But let's key in on tonight's matchup in a little bit more detail. And in the first leg in Sheffield on Friday night, well, Drew, the damage was done in the first quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Sharks got off to a 7-2 run, but enter Kimball McKenzie, and he gets to his spot. The Riders go on a 15-2 run. On the other hand, Bennett Cook was able to get inside, do some damage. He scored 40% of the Sheffield Sharks points in the paint.
We saw flashes from some of the other Sharks key players, Said Nelson, Rodney Glasgow, Pipkins too, but it was the Mark Loving show, a double-double from him, and very dangerous from downtown, as you've just seen there, landing 4 out of 6. And that is a key part of this Riders game, isn't it, Kieran? With Whelan, with Jackson, McKenzie as well, all consistently strong from the three-point range.
That is the Riders' MO, but no, the Sheffield Sharks did a great job defensively taking away that three, holding the Leicester Riders to 6 of 25, but Mark Loving stepped up, 4 of 6. He carried that team.
Now, I've asked you to look at 2 key battles tonight, and Drew, you've led with Mark Loving and the matchup against Kipper Nichols, particularly in terms of the influence that each player could have, needs to have on their team tonight.
Yeah, both of these guys have been stars for their teams all season long. You see the numbers there, evenly matched. Loving stepped his game up another level this season, and Kipper has been able to do it coming off the bench as of late. But moving on to Friday night, only Mark Loving was able to carry that forward to the playoffs. As you mentioned, Kieran, 4 for 6 from the 3, got to his sweet spot. On the other side, Kipper Nichols came up a little small, a -11, only 4 points. And if the Sheffield Sharks are going to overcome this deficit, Kipper Nichols has to come to the party.
All right, then, that's your key matchup. We asked you for yours, Kieran, and unsurprisingly, you're looking at the Battle of the Bigs.
It's always about the bigs. You know, the bigs are the ones who make this game entertaining.
Of course.
I'm not surprised you said that at all. Darian Nelson-Henry, Bennett Cook, and Nelson-Henry, who announced his retirement live on Sky Sports right here last Friday night. What a way to go out it would be for him if the Riders can land the playoff title again.
That has to be the motivation, though. He's been a leader here. I'm sure he wants to take them to this playoff finals. But I'm looking at these seasons of these 2 players, both consistent seasons, but stepping it up on Friday night, taking it to that next level. You know, Cook got the ball inside, was really scoring. Darren Nelson-Henry did a really good job defending, but I think Cook has to be a little bit more of a distributor if the Sheffield Sharks really want to advance.
4 key players then. Let's look at the key protagonists, starting with the Leicester Riders, playing around them, of course. They come into the playoffs in pretty rude health, along with Nelson-Henry, Patrick Whelan, Mark Loving, and Zach Jackson, all in the mix, all featured today, all having started over 130 games between them this season. Rob Paternostro, the Riders head coach, of course, one of the most successful and experienced in BBL history. Kimball McKenzie had a huge game in the first leg, led the Riders with 19 points in just 23 minutes, incidentally. That's the key, isn't it, Drew? Often a bench player, but when he's called upon, he always steps up and delivers.
A coach's dream. He's adaptable. He's been starting for half of the season as well, so whatever you need from him, he can get the job done. Great season he's having.
All right, then, on to Sheffield. Kipper Nichols, who we've seen is a returning face, as is Jordan Rattino, skipper Rodney Glasgow, and their big Bennett Cook. But the Sharks have seen a fair bit of personnel change this season. Deval Ramsey and Jalen Pipkins coming in mid-season that galvanised a sluggish offence. It's worked, hasn't it?
Yeah, I call it the Pipkins effect. You know, they were averaging like 71 points to 72 points. He comes into the team, they're now close to the 80s. You know, he's an electrifying player, plays at both ends of the court.
He had 37 minutes on Friday night, 13 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. They're going to need the same, preferably more production from him, Drew, tonight, if they're going to claw back this 9-point deficit.
I would just say a little bit more efficient shooting the basketball. Everything else he distributed, he rebounds. If he can bring that same game from Friday night, the Sharks will be in great shape.
Let's talk about this 9-point lead that Leicester have. And from the Sheffield perspective, does that change anything in terms of how they're going to approach the game tonight?
I think they're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive. You know, they're usually kind of cool, calm, collected, getting the ball inside. I think they have to be a little bit more aggressive with a scoring mindset, but they cannot neglect their defensive efforts.
In terms of Leicester's approach, obviously they're never going to get complacent with Rob Paternostro in charge. But how important is the start? Always key in a playoff game. But if Leicester can build up 6, 8, 10 points in the first quarter, is that just going to dent the confidence of Sheffield to too significant a degree?
Yeah, you want to throw that first punch. From the Leicester perspective, you just want want to make sure that you win the game. That's your mindset. On the other hand, you got to understand who's coming in. The Sheffield Sharks are going to come in really aggressive, so you got to be prepared for that.
All right, then. I mentioned Rob Paternostro, one of the most experienced coaches in the business. So is his counterpart this evening at Atiba Lions. Drew caught up with both of them a little bit earlier on.
Rob, 9-point advantage. Reflections on Friday night first leg.
Yeah, solid effort from us. I thought defensively we were pretty solid. I thought we rebounded the ball well. We didn't shoot particularly well. Obviously, they played pretty good defense, too, so that was a combination of things. But certainly felt good walking out of there with the W.
And what's required to get the job done today?
Got to play better. I mean, that's what I said to our guys. We got to play better than we did the other night. I think that, we won't worry about the mathematics. These two-legged games are always a little strange, right? And they have strange moments. But we've got to play better basketball today.
And how does the game change in high-stakes playoff basketball?
This could be it. Everybody knows that you win, you go on, you lose, you're out. So there's a different level of intensity. Should be fun for us and for the fans.
And, Coach, what would it mean for you to get back to the O2 and defend your title?
Well, it's a long way from here right now. But, of course, that's the goal. These playoffs go quick. Only 2 games, so it goes fast. But, obviously, when you start the beginning of the year, that's one of the goals that you want. We've been fortunate enough to be there a lot. And, I'll speak for my players. It's awesome to be there. So, certainly, everyone on the team is gunning for that.
Coach, reflections after Friday night?
Very slow start. Not characteristic for us. I mean, we've probably the last few games we've had, actually, when we've lost, there's been some poor starts to the game. The errors we're making are uncharacteristic, defensive breakdowns and lack of communication. So, we got to get back to what we do.
And what do you plan to do differently today?
We addressed that, of course. We watched film immediately after the game and just showed, so we could sit with that and just kind of get our head around how many breakdowns we had that were caused by our lack of communication, not so much what they were doing. Offensively, we've made some adjustments, trying to get the ball moving around a little bit more. A lot of stagnant offense last game, so hopefully those adjustments help.
In 15 years at the helm, any success stories being in the exact same position that you can draw from?
Well, we've done it before. I think we came back from 15 down against Newcastle, possibly, to win the second leg and make the final. We've been in that position. It's halftime, 9 points. I'm happy with that. How we played, I thought it should have been a lot bigger deficit. I thought we made a great push in the second half to even close that gap and give us a chance even to possibly win it. I think we're going in with a good mindset.
And any of your players specifically, you're looking to have a big game today?
I just need my starting group to come out with more energy, be more impactful, set the tone earlier. We can't wait for guys to come off the bench to bring that energy.
Thanks for your time, Atiba.
Thanks a lot.
Something we've touched on before this season, talking about the Sharks, Drew, that change that we mentioned offensively, given the way Atiba Lions likes to play and given how experienced he is, it's testament to his coaching prowess that he saw what was needed, made those personnel changes, and we've seen them reap the benefits offensively.
Well, that's what coaching is about. It's about evolving, right? The game continues to move forward. You see it's more about offense, it's more about shooting threes. And a big shout out to Coach Atiba Lions for recognizing that and adjusting his coaching style.
If we look at the team head-to-head and the team comparison, the Sharks have the second best defense in the BBL this season in terms of points conceded. And given where their offense is at, they'll need to at least meet their average or better it defensively tonight. And they held the Riders to 64 back in March, didn't they?
Yeah, so like I said, it can be done. But at the same time, I talked about Pipkin's effect. They've been able to get into the 80s over the last 10 games 5 or 6 times. So they have what it takes, but they have to keep that defensive mindset as well.
The applause you can hear in the background, incidentally, for Beryl Illstone, a tribute to a Sharks superfan travelled home and away watching her beloved team. She would love a Sharks comeback win tonight, wouldn't she? Can they pull it off? 9 points is the gap. They are going to give it their very, very best against the current playoff champs. Tip-off is coming next.
This is the BBL.
Now here comes Lovey for the jam. It's showtime. Trying to find some room, tosses it up and knocks it down.
All right, then, almost set for tip-off here in Leicester. One of these teams will be advancing to the semis, and one will be wrapping up their season tonight. Can the Sharks pull off a sensational comeback, or will the Riders roll on? Taking you through this one, as ever, at Rowe and Dan Rowlett.
Thank you very much, Nat. Yes, as Nat says there, somebody's season is coming to an end in 2 hours. Somebody's advancing to the semi-final. Nothing quite gets the adrenaline going for a player than that.
There's nothing quite like the fear of your season ending. It's fight or flight. Which one is it going to be, Dan?
Well, that is the big question. Let's take a look at the starting fives. And Zach Jackson has all sorts of ways to finish in the mid-range. Can get to the basket for a big dunk. Shot 40% from three and 80 from the line. He's a versatile scorer.
He's versatile. He's been Mr. Consistent, 16 points a game, but it's the big three that make up Jackson, Lovin and Whelan. Looking at big games here today in the Morningside Arena.
And at the other end of the floor, one guy who seems to always play well in this building, Bennett Cook. He is vital for what Sheffield do. He tends to start games really well. Expect early touches for the centre.
6'11" centre. Causes problems all over the league, a real matchup problem for a lot of centres, but it's the other guys they need to step up. They need the three-point shooter from Nelson, Ramsey Pipkins to join the party.
Well, that is a good point, because they only made a couple of threes in the first leg, Sheffield. That is the 7th time this season that they have only made 2 in a game, which is the first time a team has done that 7 times since 2014. It's been a long time, but most of those were early in the season. It's a rare occurrence with this lineup, and we've got a very experienced crew chief in Ed Udansky alongside Andy Thackeray, been in the league for years and years, and Joe Hodson, our third official for tonight. Well, we are ready to go here at the Morningside Arena. Leicester, who lead by 9 against Sheffield for a place in the semi-finals. It is the Sharks who get us underway. And lobbed in, but broken up by Loving. Went for a spectacular first play, Sheffield.
Well, it could have been a spectacular one as well, and Coach Atiba Line stressed the importance of starting. It's even more so important, Dan, when you're already down by 9 points.
Nelson Henry going against Cook. These two battled hard in the first leg. They're battling hard again, and it's Nelson Henry with blow number 1.
Wow, if that's a story of things to come. High contact there, physical from both parties, but it's Bennett Cook who doesn't have the last laugh there, and Nelson Henry settling into this game.
Well, you'll notice on our scoreboard we have the aggregate score as well, so you can see who's actually in the lead as Ritino gets to the rim and ties it up on the day.
That's a good sign for Ritino, because he, as someone who struggled last game to score the basketball, early points for him.
Whelan out to Jackson. Once again, Nelson Henry looking to go to work. Going the long way round, and the foul is called on Bennett Cook, so Nelson will shoot 2.
Well, Bennett Cook is so important to this team because he scores the basketball in an efficient manner where not all of his teammates are able to, and him picking up an early foul here. Now look, he's an experienced player. It's his 3rd year now in the BBL, so I think Coach Atiba Lyons will trust him to play with that early foul, but it's always that risk there. If he picks up another one, he's going to have extended minutes on the bench.
So Nelson Henry is just a query from the table about something, not quite sure, but that was the slight pause. And Nelson Henry will look to add to his tally. And of course, we talk about the end of somebody's season being later today. For Nelson Henry, it could be the end of his career. And I'm sure that sort of heightens the senses even more.
Well, when you know you're on borrowed time, you want to make sure every single second counts, and Darian Nelson Henry's certainly done that. 4 points, all of his 14 points so far today.
Well, usually you find in these aggregate games, at some point the team behind, as long as it's not as big a gap as we saw Manchester have against Bristol, usually get in front at some point. It's whether it's sustainable for 40 minutes is the question. And Cook ties things up.
A really positive start from both big men. Bennett Cook, they're showing us why he's such an issue.
Stolen away by Pipkins. You won't catch him in the open court, and he hammers in the jam.
Wow, Darian Nelson Henry chased him down, and I thought, is he going to challenge? But Pipkins took off the flight a little bit earlier. Slams it home.
I think Nelson Henry's probably seen the highlights of Pipkins since he joined the BBL and didn't want to be part of it.
Agreed, Dan. That's going to play a role, isn't it?
Here's Love. Fires up for 3. Off the mark. Oh, it falls out to Nelson Henry for 6 points.
Well, a little bit of good fortune never goes amiss, and Nelson Henry capitalises on that. 6 points now for him.
Well, Drew Lasker has joined us in comms. Great start for Nelson Henry here, Drew.
Yeah, absolutely. Scoring inside and making it easy for the Leicester Riders. But on the other hand, the Sheffield Sharks has to defend without fouling because Leicester Riders shot 90% on 22 attempts on Friday night. And the other side, they need to get up more threes, the Sheffield Sharks.
Well, you know, Pat Whelan will get them up and he knocks his first down.
Speaking of threes, Patrick Whelan, you can see him growing in confidence now. He was injured, out for several weeks. It's took him a little while to get back into the flow, but if he's in the flow, Sheffield Sharks need to be aware of where he is on the floor.
Pipkins loses it. Was it off the Leicester man? No, it's off Pipkins' leg and out of bounds.
And Pipkins was great on Friday night in regards to distributing the ball and rebounding the ball. But again, when he's looking for his own offense, has to be a little bit more efficient taking care of the ball because 5 for 17 isn't going to get it done against this Leicester Riders.
A little credit there for Jackson for knocking it loose. It did come off Pipkins' foot, you can see on the replay. Oh, Love has a lane to the basket. In the end, he was distributing that. We'll see whether he gets 2 shots or not. The foul is, it is going to be 2 shots. The foul is on Jalen Pipkins.
Oh, defensive breakdown there from the Sharks, and always guard the ball, and Darrell Ramsey was leading him to the guy that wasn't ready to help, which then gives Garrison Love the space to be able to attack the rim. He's fouled.
Well, Love, I was talking to Rob Paternoster. Love was been out of practice this week with a slight groin issue. That's why they didn't have him on late in the game on Friday night. Just trying to nurse him through, but a good start to this game with a couple of points and an assist early on. Cook trying to go to work, trying to find some room. Good footwork in the end from the big man.
Thought he got away with a travel there. He covered some serious ground there with a shuffle of the feet, but he kept his composure and finished the play.
Well, they ducked away from Love. He didn't make them pay with the missed 3. Nice spin from Nelson. Not sure Ramsey was the intended receiver, but it got to him and he scores, and he'll go to the line for a bonus.
And it's not how the Sheffield Sharks drew it up, but I guarantee they will take it. Ramsey being the beneficiary on the end of that, get a nice little floater and 1. Well, he'll head to the line for an extra.
And that's a valid point, Drew. Sometimes it's not the pretty structured play. It's those nitty-gritty, loose balls, deflected plays, anything and everything that gets you to the next round of the playoffs, you have to capitalize on.
Well, Cook gets an early seat. 4 minutes into the game, he's replaced by Del Pesce for the Sharks. Ramsey trying to tie it up and does. Nelson Henry putting it on the floor, driving to the ring from the 3-point line.
And I think Nelson Henry heard you guys talking about retirement at the top here, and he says, I'm not ready for my season to be over with just yet.
8 points already for the Riders captain. That's going to be a foul on Ramsey. Gambling for the ball that wasn't there.
Yeah, I think he was still frustrated. He missed that pull-up jump shot, and clear as day, top of foul as well.
But that's what I was talking about earlier. You cannot send the Leicester Riders to the free throw line because they are the best shooting team in the league. And that's where you can argue that the game was won on Friday night.
Rod Glasgow, the Sharks captain, into the game for the first time. And we were talking before the game about what sort of pace you felt would be beneficial to Sheffield. You were saying a low-scoring game. This has started pretty high-scoring.
It has now. I think it needs to be low for the Sheffield Sharks to have a credible chance of winning this basketball game by 9 or more points. But the problem is, man, they conceded 28 points in the first quarter in game 1, and Leicester Riders are on pace for that number, which is way too high for one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Oh, Whelan almost got a hand on that. Here's Glasgow. Block! What a block from Jackson! Jackson to the floater. He's so good in that position.
And we've talked about Mark Loving all season, but in my opinion, Zach Jackson has been the Riders' most consistent best player. You see he turning great defense to his patent floater on offense.
He has been excellent this year. As that's knocked away. It'll be a Leicester ball, though. The other thing about Jackson, last year you would say maybe the one weak spot in his game was his free throw shooting. He was in the 60s, 80% from the line this year.
And you love that, the example as well with the Leicester Riders. If loyalty paid both ways, Zach Jackson's first season with the Riders ended in injury. They brought him back a second year, averages 10 points a game. Now they bring him back a third year. He's a bona fide all-star. Excellent contributor and a legitimate, all-star in my opinion.
Here's Adekoya's first touch of the ball. Out to Lovett. Puts it on the floor. Kicked out. Adekoya for 3. Knocks it down.
Wow, straight off the bench already. Making a positive move. He was a plus 14 in game 1. Trabil Adekoya already impacting things.
Well, Sheffield need to win by 9. They are currently losing by 9. And before the game, Drew Lasker caught up with the Leicester Riders captain Darren Nelson-Henry to see how he's feeling ahead of this second leg.
Darren, a solid team performance in the first leg. What were the keys to that win?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing when we look to win any game, solid defense, run our stuff, play in transition, play good hard-nosed basketball. That's about it. That's how we try and get it done every day.
And this Sharks squad won't lay down. What's been the message in the locker room?
Yeah, just continue to roll it over from game 1. I think we've been growing in how solid we've been all season long, and it's just another opportunity to take that next step forward.
And your matchup with Bennett Cook is a critical one. What's required for you to win that battle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a guy I've been matching up with for almost 3 years now, so we know each other's ins and outs pretty well, and we just got to stay strong, do my work early, and try and stay as solid as possible.
And finally, after your retirement announcement last week, how sweet will it be to go out on top?
It'll be great to know that my last year here with the Riders, we go out as champions, and we're going to do everything to achieve that.
Thanks, Darren.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, he's certainly played his part thus far with a perfect 3 of 3 for 8 points. And his team lead by 9. 6 minutes into the second leg. That is an 18-point aggregate lead. Nelson. He gets his head down, but he leaves the finger roll short.
I think that's the hard for the Sharks when they go on these droughts. There's no easy points. They're last in fast break points per game. They're last in points in the paint. So they don't create enough easy points. Even that last play, you've got Jalen Pipkins trying to jump over literally everyone, every red jersey there, and misses the layup.
Well, Pipkins picks up his second foul. So he sits down. Jackson, under all sorts of pressure, still able to score.
And like I said, Action Jackson getting to his spot right there on the left block where he kisses that little floater off the glass.
Well, Jackson and Nelson-Henry are the only 2 Leicester players to have taken a 2-point shot in the game, and they haven't missed one yet. 6 of 6 combined. Wow. Here's Nichols. He gets to the finger roll and trucks it in.
Well, he's someone, again, they've brought back year after year. He's going to have a big game. You said it before, tip-off Drew. They have to get an MVP performance out of Kipper Nichols today.
Whelan. Good hands from Nelson. I think that came off Whelan's foot and out of bounds for a Sheffield ball.
And that was great hands there by the Sheffield Sharks defense to strip Pat Whelan as he tries to get to his left hand, and Sharks ball.
Well, into the game for the first time comes Kimball McKenzie and Evan Walsh. Kimball McKenzie became only the 13th player in BBL history to shoot 90% over the course of the season from the free throw line. He was 11 for 11 in the first leg of the playoffs.
And he was 9/10 off finishing with a 50-40-90 split. Just missed it.
Nichols. Rhodes maths, he lets you round anything up, by the way. So Kimball's probably got it in Rhodes' spreadsheet. Here he is in the corner for three. First touch, and trying to knock down the triple. It doesn't go.
I've got smiley faces on my spreadsheet.
What score did you go to?
Ooh, space for Rotino in the corner. There's usually a positive result for Sheffield of that, but not this time. Here's McKenzie, out to Whelan. Adekoya sees a line to the basket, and Delpesh deflects it away.
And the Sharks, a team who don't make many threes. When you're wide open like that with your best shooter, Rotino has to knock that down as Delpesh gets his hands on the ball there.
And it has to be in the psychology as well of this Sharks team right now. They know how poorly they're shooting. They only shoot 12 threes the last game, 2 for 12. And you're right, Rotino, that has to be a guaranteed bucket when he's open, stepping into that three-point shot.
Whelan off the corner and backboard. Unusual shot for him. Here's Glasgow. He certainly can make a three. Well, they've got the mismatch for Nichols first. He spins into a double team, and he is shoved out of bounds. The foul is called on Zach Jackson.
And that's a frustrating foul, and Rob Paternoster not happy because you've got the double team there, really difficult area of the court. Could have been a travel as well. There was a shuffle of feet for sure. But that's not an area you want to foul because offensive player has very limited options in that short corner.
I think Rob Paternoster might have got a warning in there as well. In fact, he's got a technical. Somebody's got a technical. Yes, it is Rob Paternoster. He doesn't quite understand what that was for.
Well, he's had a few of those in his career, hasn't he?
He has had one or two. Well, Glasgow gets the 3 point. If you're a good lip reader out there, we will apologize for what you may have seen. Here's Rotino into the key. Ramsey got a long way into that head fake. Fires up the three, and it's off the mark.
And again, great defense by the Leicester Riders. You can tell they're almost forcing them to take those threes and really clogging the paint where the Sheffield Sharks love to live.
Jackson in the corner. That jab step creates so much space for him. The three is short, but Adekoya with the rebound. Adekoya spinning, kicking. Oh, nice pass from Walsh. Whelan can't make the three.
But that's okay if you're the Leicester Riders. You're missing shots, but they're really good shots, good ball movement. Patrick Whelan stepping into that three. You'd take that all day.
Nichols backing down, kicking out. Ramsey for the triple, knocks it down.
And a great inside-outside, beginning with Kipper Nichols getting to his spot, feeding Ramsey for a much-needed Sheffield Sharks three.
McKenzie in the mid-range, that one's short. Shot clock is on, but tenths of seconds between the shot and the game clock. They don't want to go too quick here, Sheffield. Nichols running in. What are they doing? 11 seconds to go. Why is he attacking like that? It's an offensive foul.
That's a great defensive play there from Evan Walsh. He saw that. Kipper Nichols had that look in his eyes. He had one thing on his mind, and that was to get to the rim. Evan Walsh puts his body in the line. Feet still. Offensive foul.
And you're absolutely right. And in that situation, and we've all been there before, you predetermine your next move as opposed to reading and reacting where the defense is.
McKenzie out to Walsh. Jackson puts it on the floor. The little runner off the glass doesn't quite go, and that will do it for the opening quarter here in Leicester. Well, Sheffield Sharks came in knowing a 10-point win is needed, but his team will have to find some way back. They're in a bit of a hole here at the end of the first quarter, trailing by 5 against Leicester. Work to do in the second quarter for the Sharks. We'll be back with that after this break. Welcome back to Leicester. The Riders leading by 5 on the day. That is a 14-point aggregate lead in the tie. A place in the semi-finals up for grabs. Here's Loving. Kicks it out to Adekoya. Loving, his first shot of the game. It's off the iron.
And that was a great defensive possession by the Sheffield Sharks. They're forcing Loving into a heavily contested three.
And that's the key for me. They've got to disrupt this Riders offense. They've got to keep the score low.
Tino just about drew iron on that three. Pressure from Glasgow.
He's a guy, just going through that period. He was a guy of previous seasons. He was a 40% three-point shooter, and it was a guaranteed bucket when left open. So they're going to need him to get back to those usual ways.
Good challenge from Delpesh. Well, Nichols has the mismatch, and he's called for a 3-second violation. Went down the lane, got into the low post, but never got his feet out of the key. And eventually called for a 3-second violation.
Well, I put that turnover on the Cards because you had 2 mismatches out there. You had McKenzie guarding Kipper Nichols, and then you also had Walsh guarding Delpesh. So the Sharks guards have to seek out that matchup and get the ball inside.
It's usually Rowe's job to put that on the guards.
Well, everyone's seen it now, Dan. Everyone's seen it.
You've converted him. Here's McKenzie. Under all sorts of pressure from Ramsey, and he's bumped by Delpesh.
Oh, it's a painful foul if you're, well, Mackenzie, but also if you're a Sharks fan watching at home, because your team's playing high defense for 20 seconds of that shot clock. And Del Pesh just a little bit overzealous there on that, off the screen.
Gives Leicester a new 14. Mackenzie trying to get into the key, under pressure, and he will go to the line shooting 2 as Ramsey is called for his second personal foul.
And Mackenzie is just taking his game to an entire new level this year. Was a bench player, only averaging 7 points last year, but this year he's dribbling differently. He's running differently, just more confident overall in his game, and you can see it out there oozing on the floor.
And if he can get to the free throw line, we know that plentiful points are going to come. 11 for 11 from the line in game 1.
And 2 for 2 in game 2. Riders lead is back to 7. And whilst they're ahead on the main scoreboard, they'll be more than comfortable given that 9-point cushion they took from Friday night. Little step under from Rod Glasgow, nice finish.
That's a great move, and they're going to need a lot more of that from Rodney Glasgow Jr. He's someone who's had an up and down season. He's been given a leadership role this year. I think at times it's hurt his production because he's worried about the team more than himself.
Nice pass. There's a foul there. Rutino trying to say to the referee it's on the floor. I think he's going to get 2 free throws for that. Yes, he is.
And Carrington Love is, if anyone's benefited from his entrance to the Leicester Riders, it's Darian Nelson Henry. As we remember last year, Gino Crandell used to spoon feed Nelson Henry on those roles. And with Mackenzie starting a lot of this season, Mackenzie is more of a get your own offense. And a shout out to Rob Paternostro for when moving Mackenzie back to the bench to where Love can run the team and Mackenzie can come in and do him.
It's remarkable how he's been able to distribute the basketball. He averages 22 points a game, but in 6 assists. That is remarkable. But, 6 assists in 35 minutes per game is impressive, and they'll give you 3rd in the league, averaging 6 assists a game.
The other thing is that he's very good at penetrating and kicking to the corners, and obviously Leicester shoot the 3 ball so well. His assists are often worth more than 2. Here's Glasgow off the mark for 3. Mackenzie. That is an offensive foul. Del Pesh getting there in time. And it'll be a charge on Mackenzie.
Great defensive play there from Del Pesh. A few plays before, Del Pesh was the one who was caught for the foul. This time he makes sure that his feet are set. While contact there. One of those ones that could go either way.
Make some noise for eyes on defense.
Glasgow brings it forward for Sheffield. Nichols from behind the arc. He knocks down the 3.
Wow, that was an aggressive shot from Nichols early in the shot clock, but it's a big one.
Not a great pass from Nelson Henry. It left Loving in a bit of trouble there. Latino, in the end, could only knock it out of bounds. It's a good hustle. I mean, they've been aggressive defensively, haven't they, Sheffield? They've really gone after the ball and made it difficult.
Yeah, my criticism would be I don't know why they started the game so tentatively. The first 3 minutes of the game, they were those are the ones that got punched in the mouth first. You cannot allow that when you're the team down by 9. You have to throw the first punch. You have to be the aggressor. But now defensively, the Sharks look like a completely different team in the second quarter.
Rebound Nelson Henry, and he puts it back in. 4 of 4 from the floor, 12 points already for Darian Nelson Henry.
And he's been that guy jabbing the Sharks all game. He's been devastating inside, such an efficient scorer. Perfect.
Nichols has the size mismatch, but he passes it out to Nelson instead, who knocks down the third three of the game. So already more threes today than on Friday for Sheffield.
And I think the Sheffield Sharks need to attempt more. On Friday night, the Leicester Riders attempted 13 more threes, and no matter how many twos the Sheffield Sharks score, you're going to have to get up some threes to be able to beat the squad.
Well, Nelson Henry ended up on the floor. Kipper Nichols is called for the foul. See if we can see it.
Oh, wow. He just sort of body checked him as Nelson Henry was looking to cut to the rim.
Just sending him a retirement gift, that's all.
I know this is your final games. Here's a little something.
Loving, driving hard, hanging in the air, but unable to finish. Sheffield come away with it. Nichols. Nelson through the traffic with the finish, and he'll go to the line with a chance to tie the game at 28.
High degree of difficulty finish here from Nelson, right through the red jerseys with the contact. Nice reverse finish. And it's from a defensive stop from the Sharks, which then gives them the ability to run the floor. Easy points are hard to come by. It didn't look easy, but Nelson converted.
Well, 14 minutes into the game, Sheffield are back where they started, down 9 on aggregate. But at one point, they were 11 down in the game, so it's a good recovery. Jackson driving in, great body control again.
And Zach Jackson, as he's done all year long, calms the troops, gets Leicester Riders offense going back again with 8 big buckets so far in this affair.
Nelson says that one down.
Well, he's starting to heat up now, and that's a difficult shot there. He's looking to get into the paint. A mid-range jump shot. Players around him, it didn't matter. He knocked it down with confidence.
Loving, he attacks the rim.
That's 2 really good responses from Loving and Zach Jackson.
Cook down low, kicks it out. Glasgow all on his own for 3. Doesn't quite get the roll though.
And Rod would like to have that one back. That's 2 wide open shots he's missed here tonight from the 3.
Jackson. It's so nice from Zach Jackson. He's into double figures.
And these are plays that win you basketball games because it prevents any run. You know, just like that, it's an open 3 missed by Rodney Glasgow Jr. And then at the other end of the floor, it's, look, don't forget about me and my counterpart, Mark Lovin, who will punish you if you don't guard us.
Nichols under pressure, off the rim. Jackson with the rebound, quick outlet. Whelan's on his own. He finds Loving in the corner, off the mark for 3. Nice pass, and Nichols underneath is able to score.
I like how Kipper Nichols has approached this game tonight. We all know his players when we haven't played up to par, and he's come out here a lot more aggressive, getting to his spots, assisting, and looking for his own offense.
Well, we've heard from the Leicester captain. Let's hear from the Sheffield captain, Rod Glasgow. Spoke to Drew earlier.
Rod, a tough loss on Friday night. What was the mood directly after?
It was more so like we gave them that game. We knew we made some mistakes, especially in the first quarter. We came out flat. And I think the last 2 games heading into the playoffs, it's been that way. So we knew we had to, fix that. We saw the film, and right away we clearly saw the mistakes that we made. And then we have to understand that we're playing the defending champs still. And, they have championship pedigree. I mean, all them guys have been playing together for 4 or 5 years, so we know what we got to do.
And speaking of film, what are the adjustments for today?
More so ball movement. I thought the ball kind of stick to us offensively, not getting to that second side of the offense. And then defensively, just sticking to the game plan. There's certain guys on there that we forced them a certain way, that we were supposed to force them another way, and then the rebounding. I thought the second chance points killed us. So I think if we do those two things, we should be good.
And finally, as captain, what's your role tonight?
Do what I've been doing, I think, the second half of the season, which is stepping up, making big plays, and also making sure that the guys understand the moment and, don't ever get too ahead of yourself. Stay within your role, play your role, and do your thing out there.
Thanks, Rod.
Yep, yes, sir.
Well, he knows his team will have to come from behind here as they still trail by 11 on aggregate. The other game, by the way, has finished, and Bristol have won 82-81, a little closer than the first leg, but to be honest with you, the damage had already been done in Manchester. So if Leicester win, the Flyers will be taking on the Riders. Here's McKenzie. He's off the mark. Rebound for Jackson. Whelan takes the three, tough one. Loving trying to keep it alive, but it's Ramsey who comes away with it.
Fantastic defense there by Rodney Glasgow on the league's leading three-point shooter. Forces him to a tough contested three.
Ramsey knocked away by Nelson Henry. It'll be a Sheffield ball. Well, nobody's happy there. Cook thought he got fouled, and Nelson Henry thought it came off Cook.
Well, this is playoff basketball, not even a easy post-entry pass allowed. Everything is being fought for, and oh goodness, yeah.
I think both of them were right as well, by the way. Sheffield get the points and tie the game up at 34. Jackson barreling his way to the basket, dropping it in. He's up to 12.
It's like when he gets to those spots, the rest is just academic. He's so good and so controlled. And when he's a few feet around the basket, that floater he has, devastating accuracy.
Well, Pipkins we haven't seen much of in the game so far. Got those two early fouls. He's not come back since, but he is out on court here with 2.5 to play in the second quarter.
And that's a good move by Atiba. He knows how crucial these last 2.5 minutes are, finishing this quarter and going into the halftime lead in a position to strike.
Ramsey just kind of lost the dribble. It's out of bounds. It'll stay with Sheffield, but there are only 3 seconds on the shot clock. You were open there, Drew. You had to shot.
You see how nicely I caught that, right? Get that replay. With grace as well. Look at that reaction.
Oh,
cut me short.
That's the perfect white there, just before Drew got his moment. And that's going to be a shot clock. Well, Leicester got the rebound. They can play it. Nice pass. And Jackson with another layup. He is 7 of 8 from 2-point range, Jackson, for 14 points.
Well, as soon as they secure the defense, the rebound, they push the basketball. Zach Jackson's already ran the floor. Easy layup.
Well, Sheffield Sharks calling a timeout. 38-34 they trail, and Drew mentioned it a moment ago, and down 4 here. Sheffield can't lose these last 2 minutes of the first half here, or it's going to be a massive hole. If they can win them, get it back down to, even if it's only back down to 9 where they started, they're okay.
No, a good timeout from Atiba Lyons, and it's really quite demoralising at times when you already have a deficit and you make a run yourself, and then the opposing team retaliates and responds, and you can't get caught in that, okay, well, now we're down by X amount. And I think Rodney Glasgow summed it up perfectly in his interview. You've got to live in the moment. You've got to win play-by-play. And this is an example here of a coach, Atiba Lyons, who's been here many times before, and he's re-emphasizing to his team the importance now of winning these little periods.
Obviously, aggregate basketball is different, and some people don't like it, some people do. But I always think it's important that the coaches have been through it. The players, you know, you can just sort of feed them information, but both of these two coaches have been through a lot of aggregate basketball. They've won in this format, they've lost in this format. They know the importance, and actually it's one of those things where the timeouts you call in aggregate basketball will be different to the time, because you don't necessarily need to save one for the last 30 seconds of the game in the way that you might in a regular game.
No, I totally agree, and I think the messages as well, those timeouts have to be re-emphasized, because remember, these players understand that this is the final points of the season where you cannot afford to save energy. You've got to expend everything and everything on court.
Tough shot from Nichols, good challenge from Loving. Nelson Henry's had an excellent first half. Hands off to Whelan. Whelan going the long way round. And, well, I think Leicester would have been happy enough with the play on there, because Nelson Henry tipped it in, but the foul that he scored first, I suppose the upside from them is the second personal foul on Bennett Cook.
Yeah, you can see him, arms just over there. Patrick Whelan doing the right thing. He's attacking, going towards the rim. And Bennett Cook's done a really good job. Remember, he picked up that first foul really early in the opening minutes of the game. So again, credit to him and his ability to not pick up another one too soon.
Well, we talk a lot about how well Leicester shoot the three-point shot, and they do. But one of the other things is particularly Whelan and Jackson and McKenzie, love to attack the rim, love to get to the basket, and in doing so get to the free throw line. They're all excellent free throw shooters.
Yeah, and it's a correlation between how well they shoot the basketball as well. You've got to remember, all those pump fakes, all those jab steps create a little bit more space when the defense has to honor them. So you're right, Dandy, it's one of those, the modern day ball, isn't it? Three-pointer or get all the way to the rim.
Lob to Delpesh. It's a little far out on that hook, and as a result it falls short.
Looking a little off balance as well, didn't he? Sort of rust that shot. Usually so reliable in and around the rim.
McKenzie across to Whelan, puts it on the floor to the spin. And he's stumbling his way through. He's still got the ball. There's not a lot of time to work with here. To the runner, he got all the way back and tipped in by Nelson Henry.
Second chance points is something that was so crucial in game one. The Leicester Riders were able to dominate the battle of the boards, and Nelson Henry gets a nice easy tip in. 14 points personal now for him.
6 rebounds, he's taken 5 shots and 4 free throws, he's made them all. He doesn't want to end his career tonight, that's for sure. Nelson to the finger roll, misses, and Leicester can have the last offense here of the half and open a double-figure lead.
Complete contrast there, no offensive rebounds there for the Sharks.
Nelson was on the floor, but Leicester were not in a hurry because they want to use the clock. Nice pass, Loving finds a bit of room, leaves it short, and that will do it for the first half. And Rob Paternostro and the Leicester Riders had a 9-point lead coming in. They've almost doubled that in the first half here. Atiba Lyons looking pensive on the sidelines. His team trailing by 8. That's 17 points all told, and that's a lot of points to make up in 20 minutes, Anne.
It is, and I thought it had to be this way, that Sheffield Sharks had to keep this game low scoring, keep Leicester Riders in the 60s, which, look, it's a really difficult ask. This is a team that averages 88 points a game, but the Riders will just go out to the races quickly in that first quarter. Now they're feeling good about themselves. 42 points at halftime.
61% two-point shooting has been the key for the Riders, and a perfect 10 for 10 from the line. They've won the battle of the boards as well. Let's get some reaction. Kimball McKenzie is with Drew.
Kimball, 8-point lead. How were you guys able to, in the first half, build on the 9-point lead that you came into this game with?
Yeah, just coming into the game with the mentality that we're just trying to win a home game. Trying not to pay too much attention to the aggregate. Just come in here and try and win the game.
And offensively, everything looks crisp, but more importantly, Nelson Henry, Zach Jackson seems to be the stars. Talk about their game.
Huge. They're finishing really well around the rim. Both played really well. Hopefully they stay aggressive. Yeah, both top-notch players, so I'm not surprised.
And finally, 17-point aggregate lead thus far, but 20 minutes of basketball left. What's required in the second half?
Yeah, I think we're just trying to, like I said at the beginning, just come out and win the game, keep playing good basketball, keep getting stops. I think defense and taking care of it will be big for us.
Well, good luck in the second half. Thanks for your time, Kimball.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, it was a fluent performance from the Riders, defensively in particular, in the first half. Holding the Sharks with a 34. That's not enough for Sheffield. Can they get back into this? Reaction and analysis coming next. So far, so good for the Riders, although the Sharks and Jalen Pipkins started explosively. Patrick Wheeling doing what he does best from downtown. A number of the Riders getting in on the act there. Zach Jackson had a big first half as well. Rob Paternostro satisfied with that at half time. Just 34 points from the Sharks offense that we said had to get going, had to get in rhythm, and they struggled to do that for much of the first half. What have Leicester done so effectively defensively in that first half?
Darren Nelson-Henry got a great start defensively, really kind of stopping Cook in his tracks. And at the same time, they've been taking care of the ball, making big shots, which is really slowing the Sheffield Sharks offense down.
We're looking at some of the key protagonists in this Sharks offense, and they had a particularly slow start. But Side Nelson starting to warm up, Pipkins getting in on the act as well. Is there cause for optimism here? Because I guess they've got nothing to lose now in the second half.
So when I look at this, I'm saying, okay, they've 17 points to claw back into this game. They're not even scoring 17 points a quarter. So they need to have more of a collective effort and really start being a little bit more aggressive in attacking the basket.
Speaking of collective effort, it was interesting hearing Rodney Glasgow's interview that we saw in that first half, and he referenced the fact that this Riders team has played together, so many of the players have played together for so many years. How important is that to the cohesion that we see almost consistently week in, week out?
So I think it is a real plus having a strong core who know the playoffs, know the travel, know everything else. But Rob Paternostro just knows how to recruit the right pieces to fit his system, and he adjusts to those players as well. So it's a bit of both, having that core, having that experience, but at the same time, he just knows how to get it done.
We referenced at the top, didn't we, that consistency of the Riders' starting five: Zach Jackson, Mark Loving, Patrick Whelan, and their skipper Darian Nelson-Henry. You mentioned, because people will look at the numbers and look at his offensive prowess in the first half, joint leading scorer, shooting 100%, but defensively dictating things, isn't he?
He does a great job of building a wall. He plays vertically. It's really hard to play against, but getting it done both ends of the court. We talked about that head-to-head matchup against Cook and Daniel Nelson-Henry will definitely advantage Nelson-Henry at this moment in time.
What makes him so hard to handle as an offensive player?
He's got great movement. He can make the mid-range jump shot. He's crafty, and he can also distribute. I talk about that distributor. He's good at doing both.
Now, I mentioned he was the joint leading scorer for the Riders. He shares that accolade in the first half with Zach Jackson, who is a player that we constantly come back to. He goes under the radar. He's an unassuming kind of guy, but at clutch moments, time and again, Zach Jackson steps up.
I say it time and time again. He is my favourite player in this team. He just knows how to get it done. Constant X factor at both ends of the court. All about the business.
Is Zach Jackson in your MVP discussion?
He definitely. I always say that the Leicester Riders go. It's a shame because they're just meticulous in what they do. That they don't usually have this shining star. But Zach Jackson definitely has to be in there.
When we look at the MVP shortlist, because of course we're going to be turning our attention to that now at this stage of the season, what are the key attributes to consider when you're weighing up your league MVP candidate?
That they're the most valuable player on that team. It's a basic question, but a team that's maybe really struggling, that one player can carry them.
But collective success is key, right? Does an MVP have to come from a team that is sharing collective success?
I think you have to look at it, when you're looking at context, you're thinking about players who can really propel their team and take them where no one believed they could get.
And I guess the flip side of that as well is it's difficult to stand out as an MVP when you're in a team of all-stars. That's exactly what Sam Decker has done this year. He's the first on our shortlist, and we're going to look over the next couple of weeks at the players that we think are in the mix. I mean, let's face it, we've been talking Sam Decker up for MVP for most of the season. What a season he's had, because he is very much the talisman in an all-star lineup.
Definitely. There's so many superstars on this team, but Sam Decker just has that it. He just takes it a little bit further. I talk about the cup final against the Leicester Riders. He stepped up and literally carried them to victory. He's just that player who can get it done at the right time, and he doesn't always need to get it done, but when he needs to, he steps it up every single time.
You see the numbers there, but back to the question I asked about the different things you consider when weighing up your MVP candidate. What about the intangibles, as we often hear them described as, the leadership qualities, the importance he has to the Lions as an organisation, how involved he's got in the BBL, how excited he is to be here in Britain when the BBL is really on a roll and in an upward trajectory?
He's a two-way player. He plays both defensively, offensively. He's a great leader. The only thing I said is we looked at those stats at 21 games. I don't know if that's enough to get that MVP shouting, so we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, next up on your shortlist, BJ King. And no surprise that he is on the Inchara shortlist, because you've been bigging him up all season long. It's a great foundation that he has as a basketball player. His father played in Europe for a number of years. He played his college ball at Louisville, one of the very best in the business, of course. Played in the All-American game alongside players like Jason Tatum. He had time with the Knicks and then in the G League as well. So we know that he has got the absolute foundational skills, and now he's instrumental in what has been a brilliant season for the Flyers.
He's taken Flyers to a place where no one believed they could get to other than the Flyers themselves. So I think that VJ King is definitely in the mix because, again, a player who's really kind of propelled his game, took it to another level, been a consistent, dominant player for the Bristol Flyers. And that's a big change in his game, because at times, in his G League career, he hasn't been that star player. He's now been a star player and delivering at the highest level. Well, the league will announce their player and coach of the season at our season finale, the playoff final at the O2 in a fortnight's time. It has been a long, old road, hasn't it? But we're nearly there.
You bought the noise, seen the hustle, ripped your team, so I get buckets in the paint. From G from the impossible.
To himself.
So now you know.
Yes, both the WBBL and the BBL playoff finals live from the O2 Arena here on Sky Sports. We're on action from 12:45. All the build-up, all the excitement, and both finals in the season finale. And it doesn't get any better than that when it comes to British basketball. Cannot wait.
You know, you just want to be there because you know what? It is disgusting as an event. It's just something you want to be a part of.
I love the fact that the only thing outside of a player's individual piece of skill that gets Akira and Achara disgusting is the playoff final, naturally. And of course, make sure you're joining us for that one in a fortnight's time. Of course, what we're going to work out in the time between now and then is who is going to be playing in that playoff final. These guys were there last year, of course. They are the reigning champs. And so far, so good for the Leicester Riders. Look like they have 1 foot in the semi-finals. What have the Sharks got left in the tank? We'll find out in just a few minutes' time. So the Riders have an 8-point lead on the night, a 17-point lead in this quarterfinal. Mission impossible for Sheffield, or are we going to see something dramatic? Let's find out. The second half is about to get underway when we get back to Anne and Dan.
Mission improbable, I would probably say, Nat. It's a big ask for Sheffield to win here by double figures. It's an even bigger ask to get them to do it in 2 quarters, and what does Atiba Lyons need from his team here?
He needs to instill desperation in them. When you have that desperation, remarkable things can happen. You know, they needed to win that second quarter for me going into half-time, but they didn't. So it needs to be a record-breaking third quarter here now for the Sharks.
Well, in the Atiba Lyons era, they've only had 1 victory in this building that would have been by enough points. That was essentially against Charnwood, though. in a meaningless cup game. Inside is Cook, and there's the first 2 that they need.
Well, and that's a good way to start proceedings, is go to your big man, get you a high percentage shot around the rim and convert.
It's Love. Loving. Late in the shot clock. Great closeout by Nichols.
And that's one way down. Excellent defense. We saw it from a large proportion of that second quarter. It was the Sharks defense that was able to claw their way back into the game. They've got to keep this score low, and they can make shots on the other end of the floor. Would be the perfect remedy for them to get back into this game.
Ramsey back to Cook. He has a look at the shot clock. It's down to 5. Nice spin. A little flat on the shot, though.
And that's the issue with the Sheffield Sharks. If you look at it, they have 0 offensive rebounds. So the Leicester Riders have done a great job at keeping them one and done. When you're shooting 48%, you need to get some extra possessions.
Nice cut back door by Whelan. He wanted a foul. He didn't get one. Here's Rotino. Floats it way short.
And that has to be a trail 3. Rotino coming down the court in rhythm. That's a shot that he has to just let fly, as opposed to shooting a runner over a 6'10" guy.
Jackson trying to get past Cook. Does get past him. Gets all the way to the rim. He's fouled, and that will count.
Zach Jackson. Can we say any more positive things about number 21? Because every single time Sharks have a glimmer of hope, Zach Jackson's on call, ready to stamp it out. Wow.
And I got a chance to catch up with Zach a couple of weeks ago at practice, and I asked him, what's the difference in your game this year? He said he was actually healthy for once this offseason and got a chance to work on his game. And we know how important that is. That's when players are built during the offseason, and you're starting to see the work show here this season for Zach.
Well, the most efficient 17 points you could hope for from Zach Jackson in this game. He's got 7 rebounds as well. Nelson, a little shimmy shake. His shot is short, but Ramsey gets the offensive rebound. Saves it only to Jackson. On to Loving.
Oh, a rare offensive rebound, and you throw it away.
Jackson in the corner. A rare missed shot from Zach Jackson.
Leicester Riders on defense.
Ramsey all the way to the rim, and he's fouled by Whelan, and will shoot 2.
That's a great take there from DeVale Ramsey. He's got such a quick first step in that dribble there. He can really put that booster on straight to the rim.
5 on the shot clock for Jackson. Blocked, but fouled by Pipkins. I think that's his fourth.
Wow. Didn't look like a foul to me, and that's the only way you can stop Zach Jackson, I think, in that position, is blocking the shot, because everything else is in the bottom of the net. Oh, I think that's good defense.
That's playoff basketball right there. That's great defense by Pipkins, and he anticipated the floater, and I don't know if the ref was calling a little body get into the move, but that's play on from my perspective.
But he'll have to go to the bench because he has been called for his fourth personal foul.
It's a long way in this game as well, Dan. That's the worry, isn't it? Pipkins has been that player, huge piece of the puzzle as to why they've had such a soaring run of wins in the second part of the season. It's not just his athleticism, it's also his ability to score the basketball and create for others.
And Atiba brought him off the bench in the second half to save him from himself, and ultimately he picked up 2 quick fouls there.
It's actually the first time this season that Atiba has brought him off the bench at the start of a half. Wow. Ramsey down to Delpesh. Late in the shot clock. Delpesh has to be quick. He is quick and he lays it in.
Nice move there from Delpesh. Uses his strength and his size. Spin baseline for the easy layup.
Kicked away from McKenzie. Adekoya is going to heave the 3. That's short. Long rebound comes out to Nichols, and he's wrapped up by Whelan, so that'll be a Leicester ball on the possession arrow.
A good reaction there from Pat Whelan. As soon as the ball landed in Nichols' hands, he locked him up. And they were both sort of dancing with the ball. Both of them moving. I don't know who travelled first, but they were both moving.
Foul called off the ball on Develle Ramsey. That'll be 2 free throws because Sheffield are over the limit in this quarter.
And we talked about it coming to this game. You have to defend without fouling, because right now the Leicester Riders are shooting 13 for 13, 100%. And they're an excellent free throw shooting team, and where every whistle blown, they'll be going to the line.
Well done, Drew. You just jinxed them on the first one there.
I don't know if we can get him out of this building alive, Dan.
Adekoya, 77.6% free throw shooter on the season, becomes the first man from either team to miss one today. Makes full amends. 3:41 to go, and Atiba Lyons is going to call a timeout here as his team trail 52 points to 44. They need to make some sort of a run now. They've got to get this one back before the start of the fourth quarter. They need to get somewhere back to level in the game if they're going to have themselves a chance of making a run at winning the tie in the fourth quarter.
And I think they got to be more disruptive, more creative defensively. Now's the time to maybe run and jump, pick up full court, half court traps, because right now you're coming down where Leicester Riders are having beautiful ball movement, beautiful player movement, and being ready, efficient there. And the Sharks need to speed this game up a little bit. Use that defense, as I talked about, to create offense. But even on makes, let's run, because you're running out of possession.
Yeah, I agree. It's high risk, high reward time now for the Sharks. And what I mean by that is they've got to gamble now, which is going to leave them exposed in certain areas, but they've got no choice. Time is ticking. They're down in the actual game as well as aggregate. So, you know, they have to start rolling the dice now, making gambles.
Well, a big crowd in at the Morningside Arena, most of them wearing the red T-shirts that were given away free on entry to the game. And they might get at least a second use out of those T-shirts for next weekend. It's certainly looking that way with 3:41 to go in the third quarter. Leicester in a bit of zone defense here. Delpesh. Ramsey, Delpesh has the mismatch. He's only got 5 seconds to work with. It's knocked away. Good hands once again by Jabril Adekoya.
This Leicester Riders team is just so disciplined. They're tough, but also they make smart calls, and you've got guys coming off the bench making plays like that in Adekoya.
Jackson, did he travel with it? Yes, he did.
And one thing you and I have been critical of the defense, the Leicester Riders defense so far this season, but I feel like as of late, in particular last month, they've taken it up a notch, being more aggressive, as you mentioned there, being more stingy, looking like the Leicester Riders of old.
I agree. I think at the start of the season they really struggled to find their identity on the defensive end. And I still think they're an offensively charged team, but they get a lot more crucial stops now, and that was something that they came up wanting at the start of the season.
Regino to the basket. He's basically just saying when he was playing, it was a better defensive team.
I'm definitely saying that, yes. This isn't the most defensive-minded Riders team, but boy, they are one of the most talented offensive teams we've seen here at the Leicester Riders.
Adekoya and Delpesh hitting the deck. I think it's Delpesh who's going to get called for the foul. It is 21 shown to the table.
It looked like he squared up to me.
That's great defense. It looked like he was halfway down, so whether they called him for tripping him up when he's on the floor, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you've been fooled with the refs there, Drew. I don't know. I thought he was already halfway down. Oh, sorry, excuse me. The referee's called the block.
Yeah, I agree, because I was thinking in time that Delpesh went down a little soft, but if he stands his ground, that might be the difference between him drawing that charge.
And he did it in the first half. An excellent charge in the corner down there after the screen. So it's really hard to go away from that. When you've been rewarded for doing that, you kind of think, okay, well, I'm going to get a possession here for my team, but on that occasion went against him.
Glasgow around the screen into the lane, tosses it up high and finds the bottom of the net.
And that's a nice little teardrop. We've seen that signature move there before by Rodney as he gets to his left hand and floats it high and soft over the rim.
Loving playing point guard for the Riders here. Loving off the mark. Not his best shooting game of the season, that's fair to say. Delpesh to the spin. Off the mark.
Both teams looking a little fatigued here. Energy levels decreased a little bit, and it's fine if you're the Leicester Riders because you can carry on.
McKenzie just strong to the hole. And that's what I mean by Kemba McKenzie. How much aggressive he looks this season as he gets to in the paint once again and just flips it up for two.
And he's not the biggest or most athletic guard as well you'll see in this league, but boy, he gets it done when attacking.
He's the most direct. He goes straight to the rim. There is no deviation left or right. Delpesh to the runner this time, throws it in.
And the Sharks have continued to go to the well of Delpesh, and he's able to pay dividends there. And if you're the Sharks, you just want to finish this quarter off with a stop and maybe a bucket and come out the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter and let the chips fall where they may.
Last 10 seconds here of the third quarter. And there's a hold there from Delpesh as Adekoya was going to the rim. They're over the limit, so it'll be 2 free throws.
And that's ultimately been the Achilles heel of the Sheffield Sharks, is defending without fouling as the Leicester Riders head to the free throw line once again for the 19th attempt. And over 2 legs, they've been incredibly efficient.
missed 2 on Friday, did they? 1 today.
It's such a contrast, though, isn't it? The Riders, that was the 18th free throw, and Sharks just 5 free throws. It's such a big. There's the way that they play basketball in terms of the style they play basketball as well. There's not as many high percentage shots that are going towards the rim, positively going towards the rim for the Sharks. There's Ramsey. This proves my comment. But why is there not more of that? There needs to be more of that. This is the team that had a 9-point deficit. They needed to start like this and do it throughout the course of the game, but they just haven't been able to do that.
Well, to your point, that is the 7th foul against Leicester. It's been 17 the other way.
And that's a good defensive team not fouling, and that's what Sharks needed to do today.
Yes. Last couple of seconds. That's going to be an offensive foul on McKenzie with half a second left.
Great job there by the captain, Rodney Glasgow. Gets his feet set, gets his body in front like your coach, and that's an offensive foul all day.
It's his second, and it gives Sheffield a chance here to maybe throw something to the rim, try and tip something in. There is enough time for a catch and shoot, but well, 1 score. I think it's maybe a point, maybe 2. It's lobbed over the top, so it'll be a Leicester ball from the side. I don't know who he was aiming at, because that was way too high for anybody to catch.
So Pipkins is on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adekoya is going to throw it the other way. Whoosh, got his hands to it, but that'll do it for the 3rd quarter. Rob Paternoster's Leicester Riders lead Atiba Lions Sharks by 4 on the day. They have a 13-point cushion on aggregate. 10 minutes for Atiba to draw something up, to drag his team back in. Can they do it? Or will the Riders advance? We'll have the 4th quarter after this break. Welcome back to Leicester. 10 minutes left. And as it stands, it's 10 minutes of Sheffield season left. Unless they can find some way of winning this quarter by 15. Martina has it knocked loose, but Delpesh is able to keep possession for his team. Glasgow into the key. Floater is short, gets his own rebound, and converts.
Oh, it's the persistence there of Glasgow Junior. He's not the biggest player on court, but his heart there made up for the inches he doesn't have. Good putback.
First, second chance points of the game for Sheffield.
Wow, it's remarkable, isn't it? Fourth quarter, no easy putbacks. Goodness me.
Nelson Henry is still perfect. He is 6 of 6 from the floor, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, but 16 points.
And that's how so in control the Leicester Riders are. Rob Paternoster had the luxury of keeping him on the bench, resting Nelson Henry, despite his onslaught in the first half.
Loving, who is not quite as efficient. This is his third three-pointer attempt of the game. He's 1 of 8.
And that's a credit to the Sharks defense on Loving. Much more aggressive on their closeouts.
Well, Glasgow had a layup, but for some reason decided to shoot it off the glass.
This can conserve energy. He's got a lot of defense to play in the remaining 8.5 minutes of this game.
Whelan down to Nelson Henry. He's going to take the mid-range. Everything going in for the Riders captain.
Goodness me. 18 points personal, 7 for 7. With the ball to number 50.
Ramsey. Delpesh, 3 on the shot clock. Got fouled, and he will go to the free throw line.
Like the mindset of Delpesh there, going back at Nelson Henry, where he's gotten the better of the bigs matchup. Kieran talked about it at the top of the show. A matchup he was looking forward to. And so far, and your guy Nelson Henry, as you mentioned, perfect from the field. 1 rebound away from a double-double.
Well, we talked about the excellent free throw shooters in the game today. Marcus Delpesh, not one of them, it's fair to say. That's the first missed free throw of the game for Sheffield. 7:49 to go here in the ball game. 61-57 the lead for the Riders, and he makes 1 for 2. Sheffield with full court pressure here. Just trying to find some way into this tie. McKenzie. Well, he threw it to Nelson Henry, and Nelson Henry didn't realize that.
And that was all a product of their intent, picking up full court from the start. And Sheffield Sharks, they got the personnel to do it, really guard heavy, and something they should look forward to doing this next 7 minutes.
This one's not in the books yet. As comfortable as Leicester have been, Sheffield have got it back to 1 point on the day, 10 overall.
No, you're right, Dan, and this was where things can become a little bit interesting, because if Sharks can string a couple more stops together, it just plants a little bit of doubt in the Riders' minds.
Well, McKenzie says no, it won't.
Mental toughness. Players like Kimball McKenzie, Zach Jackson, Mark Love and Patrick Wheeler, these are the guys that respond.
Down to Nichols, spinning along the baseline, throws it right to McKenzie. McKenzie, only one thing in his mind, let's go straight to the rim.
Just getting downhill, so aggressive, so strong, and full of emotion as the Leicester Riders sit here with a 14-point lead on aggregate.
Well, just a moment ago, just starting to think maybe Sheffield could still do this, and McKenzie has other ideas. Nichols backs away for three. Nobody throws him out, but he can't knock it down. And Nelson Henry doesn't want to play point guard, but he's forced into it for a moment.
I'll just dribble myself all the way down to the key and just keep shooting because he has been perfect today.
Why not?
Well, he's trying to get an assist here to Whelan instead, and he does that as Patrick Whelan knocks down a three, and suddenly 7 in a row for Leicester, and they're back out to a comfort margin.
That's just beautiful basketball, and it's really difficult sometimes when you're a player, when you're hot, not to just automatically shoot the basketball. But Nelson Henry doesn't. He gives up a good shot for a great one, and Patrick Whelan knocks it down.
Nelson Henry knocks that loose, and Cook can't hang on to it. Cook turns to the referee to ask the question about a foul, but the referee's not interested.
And as great as he's been on the offensive end, he's replicated that on the defensive end as well. Bodying up, getting his hand in the cookie jar. Riders ball.
Credit to the Riders defense there, in particular Nelson Henry, just because there hasn't been any easy post entry passes. Everything's been sort of bumped here or denied here, front here. And this time creates a turnover.
Kenzie, oh, that one just rattles out. Ramsey going quick, similar shot to McKenzie's, and same result as well.
And that's what I meant. I like that shot by Ramsey, just getting downhill, getting to his spot, as you mentioned, and just wish that the Sheffield Sharks would have came out that way at the beginning of this game.
Whelan slows it down to get to the rim.
This Leicester Riders team absolutely rolling. And you can feel now the hope and the energy draining out the Sharks. If they're trying to compete, but the Riders just slipping it into another gear that they have.
Pipkins, top of the key. Only his second score of the game. His minutes have been so limited because of fouls.
Yeah, foul trouble would do that to a scorer like Pipkins. It breaks your momentum. As Sharks get their hands on the loose ball there. But the last thing you want to do is be spending your time on the bench when you know your team needs you out there.
Well, McKenzie will sit down for Leicester. The bad news for Sheffield is that brings Jackson back into the game.
It's true. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's one thing for the next. You've got Carrington Love as well now running the point, which he'll be looking to distribute to his teammates.
Loving for three. This is the one guy, I suppose, from Leicester's point of view, who hasn't really shot the ball very well today. Some pretty good work on Friday night to build the lead in the first place.
You don't know how much of that injury that you reported on has affected him in that. You know, the elevation of the jump shots. Those little differences can have a massive effect on the conversion rate.
Delpesh off the mark. 3.5 minutes left here. Looks like this will be the penultimate home game for the Leicester Riders this season. There may be one more next weekend. And barring something spectacular tomorrow, it'll be against the Bristol Flyers. Here's Jackson for three, back iron. We will be here if that is the way it plays out. Of course, if Newcastle were to win by 31 or more tomorrow at Crystal Palace, that would change the ties. But I wouldn't put any of Drew's money on that. Never mind my own.
You're right about that, Dan. The way the London Lions looked on Friday night, I was there front and center, and defensively they were back to that team we saw at the beginning of the year. Offensively, they just could not miss, and ultimately their depth just suffocated the Newcastle Eagles.
And that was without Sam Decker as well, that the London Lions won that game, as the Tiva Lions takes his last roll of the dice here, calling a timeout for something to do. So it looks, with 2:48 to go and still one game to be played tomorrow, it looks like 1, 2, 3, and 5 seeds making it through. More often than not, three of the higher seeds get through. Obviously, Cheshire, the one that upset the apple cart, they looked great over the 2 games as well, and we'll see what that means. Of course, it will, all likelihood, be Leicester against Bristol again, and these 2 teams have only been separated by basket difference this season.
Well, the playoffs has told us that the seedings weren't worked out exactly how it was supposed to work out. And if you look at that Caledonia matchup, it was a 4-5, and the teams were tied. So that could have went either way. So things have worked out exactly like anticipated when you look at those final standings. And boy, that matchup between the Leicester Riders and the Bristol Flyers is going to be one of anticipation.
I think most people would make London pretty big favourites against Cheshire, but the way that team has been playing down the stretch with short-handed, it's a low rotation, but they've got guys who are aggressive. They can put the ball in the basket. There will be a test for London's defence.
Well, ever since that heartbreaking loss they had up in Glasgow in the trophy final, it's been a positive impact on that Cheshire Phoenix team. They've been remarkable, and sometimes losses can bring you closer together as well, and that's certainly been the case for the Phoenix, who have rightfully earned their right in the semi-finals of the playoffs.
Love for 3 off the mark. Nelson Henry gets himself a double-double. Loses the ball in the end. Pipkin's pushing hard, and they'll let him go to the rim for 2.
Look at the scoreline. Rob Paternoster still screaming from the coaching spot.
Well, if there's one person in the building who can still see Sheffield turning this round and winning the tie, it is Rob Paternoster. Coaches till the very last second of every game, but Leicester trying to run the clock down here and get themselves over the line. They'd love to win the game as well. That's going to be a hook foul on Carrington Love.
Yeah, I think it's a straightforward enough call there. You can tell Carrington Love was trying to get to that rim against a smaller defender in Ramsey, but used that chicken wing illegal means to do it.
If you're new to aggregate basketball, there won't be overtime if the scores are tied, by the way. The game will be over because the aggregates won't be tied. The only way we can get overtime is if Sheffield win by 9 in regulation, if that's knocked away from Jackson.
You kind of get that feel, don't you, of a long season. Both clubs, you can tell, are tired. And even when you look at the production here in the second half, Riders 15 points in the third quarter, 13 points so far in this quarter. As good as they've looked at times, even you can see them wearing down to a degree.
Well, there's 102 seconds left. Leicester by 6, which is 15 on aggregate. Whelan getting all the way to the rim like he's on the lane line.
It was. Things just seemed to open up for him, and he sort of glided through the rim. And again, goes back to the breakdown there from the Sharks.
Ramsey's certainly not giving this up yet. He knocks down his second 3 of the game.
Credit to Sharks as well. They haven't backed down, and they haven't took their foot off the gas. They just haven't been able to make their runs and make shots at times. But it hasn't been through lack of effort.
Mackenzie ticking down the seconds. Nelson Henry comes for the screen, fakes at it. And Jackson underneath with the head fake and lays it in for another 2. 25 for Zach Jackson.
Well, it's Nelson Henry again, pulling the strings from the top of the key. That'll be his 3rd assist, and Zach Jackson's just automatic in there.
Ramsey again from behind the arc.
Wow. Ramsey just peeking a little too late. You'd want him to bring those threes in the first quarter.
Glasgow with a little reach round. It's funny, all the fouls that were in the game. It's only the 4th of the 4th quarter. Well, Nelson Henry, I think, thinks it's a shooting foul, but he's just looked up at the scoreboard and seen Sheffield only have 2. So he's walking back to the other end of the floor. He's gone back defensively, assuming somebody be at the line. They usually are at this stage. And the team alliance is going to give Nate Montgomery and Lindsay Saka the last few plays of this ball game as we tick it down to the end of Sheffield's season. Leicester live to fight another weekend. Mainly, well not mainly, but partly due to their captain who's done a bit of everything here today. Loving doesn't get that to go. The shot clock is not on, so Sheffield can dribble this out, or they can try and make one more score. Well, Wheeler commits the foul. 17 seconds away. And it's been a roller coaster season for Sheffield. The way they started, they had their dips, they've been up and down. Tiva had to roll the dice in Christmas and make some changes. They really paid off for his team, went on a great winning run. Managed to get themselves into 7th seed, but just not been able to do it over this weekend. They've been close, but not quite.
No, and credit to Coach Atiba Lyons as well. It's really sometimes hit or miss when you make those difficult calls. And I cast my mind back to last season as well when he had to do similar case of scenario, and he made the right decisions. He did the same this year, but maybe it just was a case of this team not having enough time to gel together. There certainly was an improvement there as they went on a remarkable run there the last 10 games of the season, but again, it wasn't the look, this is the start of the team from training camp, which then sort of gets you through these types of playoff fixtures because you need that added chemistry to get through.
And for the Leicester Riders, still 2 more games at least. I'll hope it's 3, but still 2 more games left to play. In all likelihood, those 2 games are going to be against Bristol, but that won't be confirmed until tomorrow. And they have had some good games with the Flyers this season, and I'm sure both at the Wise and here next weekend will be must-see TV, and we will, of course, be here on the Sunday if that's the way it plays it out.
I cannot wait, Dan Rutledge. That fixture has been excellent all season, and look, there's 0 separating these 2 teams. Not even games. They're both 25 and 11. The only difference, there was points differential that we probably had to come to you to refer to get clarification. So these are 2 clubs that have been battling it all season, matched up relatively well. There's the Leicester Riders here on good form. 2 wins under the belt will take their confidence to the next round.
Well, that's the other thing, is the way they've got through this game. Sheffield led in the first quarter by 2 points. So Leicester were comfortable all the way through, led by as many as 11, and the aggregate never really played in their mind.
No, and again, it goes back to some of the mental maturity, mental resilience of this Leicester Riders team. Whenever there was a run there for the Sheffield Sharks, upward top, Zach Jackson, not settling for a fadeaway 2. It was finding those crevices, finding those spaces inside to attack the rim. The next play, another run would come. It would be Nelson Henry or it would be Mark Lovin that were able to respond each time the Sharks give them the best punch.
Well, a perfect shooting night from the Riders captain, Darian Nelson Henry. He's pushing retirement down the road for at least 1 more weekend, and he is with Drew.
Aaron, you took care of business tonight and didn't show any signs of surrendering the momentum tonight. Sum up that performance.
Yeah, man, I mean, it was just my night. It's just one of those. We got so many weapons on this team, and they draw a lot of attention. Jackson, killer. Patty, killer. Mark, killer. Kimball's been having an amazing season, so they're obviously keyed in on them. So who does that open up? This guy,
Well, personally, what was your mindset coming in? We've talked about it at the top. You announced your retirement, but it didn't feel like you were ready for it to end tonight.
Yeah, that was one of those. I don't want to go out unless it's in the O2, so I'm going to get everything I got to get down there.
And it feels like you guys are playing your best basketball just in the nick of the time. What's been the difference in your squad this past month?
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting comfortable. I mean, we've shuffled through a lot of point guards this season. Obviously, that's a critical role for all teams, but Riders especially. And C-Love's fitting in like a glove. He's operating, he's pulling all the strings, and when you have somebody that skilled pulling the strings, you're going to have good results, and we just need to keep that momentum and keep that chemistry building, and I think we're going to be all right.
And just finally, now your eyes turn to the Bristol Flyers, who's been a tough team this year. Just a little quick thoughts on them.
Yeah, they're always tough. I mean, tough is what they do pretty much, and but Sheffield's the same way. Sheffield's a hard-nosed team, and they're going to make you work for every bucket. So I think we had a good preparation round for them coming up, and hopefully have the same result.
Well, thanks for your time. Let's keep this thing rolling. We'll see you next week, Darren.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's absolutely keeping things rolling, isn't he? Our MVP, weighing in with a double-double, 18 points, 11 boards, and he set the tone, Kieran Achara, from the get-go.
He had those first 8 points for the Leicester Riders and really kind of extended that lead at the start, making the aggregate score really hard for the Sheffield Sharks to get back into. But perfect scoring night for Dan Nelson-Henry. Was assisting, getting steals, he did it all.
You know, it must be an emotional time for him right now because he's had so much success here. As suggested in the interview, this could well have been his last game ever for the Leicester Riders, last game of his career. So going into a game with that hanging over you, I guess it's something that will really drive you and propel you forwards, but it must be on your mind a little bit as well.
It's definitely, I was there 4 years ago, the exact same situation, thinking about, but obviously I didn't get to get the advance to that next round. So it does play in your mind, you want that fairy tale ending. But he's a leader, he's used to winning, he wants to be at that O2 Arena. Speaking
of somebody who's used to winning, Rob Paternostro wants to get his hands back on that playoff silverware. He's courtside now with Drew.
Rob, congratulations. What resilience was required to put down a very tough Sharks ball club?
Yeah, you got to be patient on defense. I think defensively, you got to really be patient. They moved the ball. They played different than everyone else. They grinded out. I thought they played pretty well today on defense, too. You know, they made it tough for us to score, but, you know, we had enough in the bank there to get the job done.
Well, speaking of the bank, Friday night it was about Loving and McKenzie. Tonight it's about Nelson Henry and Zach Jackson. What role did your depth play in this series?
Yeah, it's important. I think we have a lot of weapons. I think, you know, we're not just relying on one guy. I think you see that today. I thought Nelson Henry really set the tone today. I thought his first half was huge. You know, he hasn't been scoring a lot lately. He's been more of a distributor. But today he really got aggressive around the rim and played a big-time game for us. And again, Jackson, when the bigger the game, the more he is ready to play. I can see it in his eyes today.
Well, Coach, you head now into your 6th consecutive semifinal. What's required for an organization to maintain this level of consistency?
Good players, man. We need good players, and we have good players on this team. But more importantly, players with intelligence. And I've said it time and time again, when we play a team 2 times this weekend like that, we need players that are smart to lock in, understand their tendencies, and these guys do that.
Finally, as you gear up for the next round, how do you balance staying sharp but also preserving a little energy?
Always a challenge, you know that. I think the practices are a challenge. You know, we got some guys, you know, that probably need a few days off, so we'll see. You know, it's not about going too hard this week. It's about being smart. Once we find out our opponent, being smart and understand what they do.
Coach, thanks for your time. See you next week.
Thank you.
Kieran, break that down for us a bit more. When he's talking about looking to have players with intelligence, elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, so basketball IQ is essentially understanding the assignment. You know, I always say that when we played against the Leicester Riders, they know our plays, they know their plays. You know, I was fortunate enough if our players knew our own plays, you know, so having that intelligence to understand the game, the cuts, the tendencies, understand the offense and what's expected of them and being able to deliver that's that basketball IQ he's talking about.
Well, Zach Jackson must have an IQ of, what's a high IQ? We're talking at least 160 plus then in basketball terms. What a game he had. It was a great quote, wasn't it, from his coach. The bigger the game, the more ready he is to play.
Yeah, and he would have been the MVP tonight if it wasn't for me creating the narrative on Darren Nelson at the top. But he's just Mr. Do-It-All. He gets it done. He posts up here, showing his strength, a little kiss off the glass here. You know, he shoots the 3, he defends. He's just a hard-nosed player who knows how to get the job done.
He was unlucky not to get the MVP nod. He had 25 points and just shy of a double-double with 9 boards. And we said it at halftime. We've talked about it a lot over the years. Rob emphasized it again. Now they're in the semi-final, 2 games from glory. He's exactly the kind of player you want in your locker room.
Exactly. He is the player that you want there. Again, stays composed every single time, doesn't mess around, he's not jumping around, celebrating. He's just all about business. You would love to have him on your team.
And you can apply that to a lot of the Riders' performances today. And I think Rob alluded to that a little bit in his interview. Key performances, maybe not necessarily headline acts, but Kimmel McKenzie landing some key blows. Whelan as well. There were a couple of times when looked like the Sharks could be getting back into it. He got hot from downtown and started to get a run rolling. Just good contributions across the roster once again.
And that's all down to the recruitment. You know, bringing in good players who understand the system, who is more than the team, more than the individual. Having that team performance, they're all about winning.
Difficult way to end the season, of course, when you're out of the knockout tournament. But there's been a lot of positives to take from the Sheffield Sharks campaign. Let's get a little bit more reaction now from their coach, Atiba Lyons.
Atiba, your team coming to the playoffs as one of the hottest teams, but unfortunately it ends here. What do you feel like your team lacked over this leg here?
I think, we had an injury towards the end of the season with Saeed Nelson, and we were playing really good basketball before that, and trying to get back that rhythm isn't always easy, as you know. When a guy goes out for 1 or 2 games, sometimes it's hard to integrate him in without a few games of teething issues.
Well, we noticed mid-season a total roster change. Just talk about a little bit of your evolution as a coach this season.
Yeah, I think it's been understated about some of the issues with the Sharks. I think it's been really heavily emphasized about the slow pace and all this kind of stuff. But we've had a lot of injuries from the first 4 games. Rod was hurt, and we lost 0-4, and then we got healthy. We went 7-2. Then we got hurt again with Saeed, went 0-9. So it's always about just the pace of the game. But when we have guys injured, it seems to be it's just about the style. But it's injuries, and we've been fighting that all season. Well,
finally, with the new arena on the horizon, what did you learn this season that you can take with you into this new era?
It's a lot about depth. Obviously, Leicester have an abundance of it. They've got guys that I don't know what they're doing, but they're deep and talented, and they haven't even touched the court yet. So that bodes them well going into the season if they all get healthy as they keep going through the playoffs.
Well, Atiba, a strong finish to the season, something that you could be proud of. Thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
They kept it close. Wasn't enough, obviously, but is he going to feel a little bit frustrated with that performance, do you think?
I don't think he was frustrated. I think it was inevitable, the way they've played. We can talk about injuries all they want. Every team in this league has had injuries. Their MO is a little bit slow, calculated, don't turn the ball over, hard-nosed defensive team. So he won't be upset. They've got a lot to look forward to. Going to a new arena next season, I'm sure that's what's going to be the main focus right now. Build for that, get the fans back behind them, and ensure that they're getting entertained in the new facility.
We keyed at the top that they've got a number of big players that have shown they can be big game players. They didn't really get enough big performances today. When you think about Cook, for example, we talked about the battle of the bigs, and Darian Nelson-Henry definitely won that one. Rodney Glasgow started to get hot as the game went on, but you look around, Pipkins even, it started so strongly. There just wasn't enough from those players who we know are hugely talented. They couldn't gel it together.
And we're talking about the Leicester Riders, Zach Jackson stepping up when they did. That's the thing for me. I don't always know who's going to be that person who steps up for the Sheffield Sharks. They're a real team, but at the same time, sometimes that identity, not know who the playmaker is, who's going to take over the game, that can cost you.
The player I think who was the standout for them was Deval Ramsey, and he was of course a player that we talked about coming in midway through this season. 19 points meant he was the Sharks' leading scorer, and as Ant suggested in commentary, it was just a little too late, wasn't it?
And I think the points, a lot of the points he scored today were they're not impactful. He just continued to keep going when it was already, I guess, past them. But he's a great young talent, and again, I love to see players like him playing in the British Basketball League.
It's tough, isn't it, to lose a game like this, a quarter-final like this, close but not close enough, and that's the end of your season, you're done. What's that emotion like as a player when you're out of the playoffs, and you're probably going to have some teammates that you're never going to see again? There's a number of months off before you get to go again, and it happens so suddenly. What's that like to deal with as a player?
So usually there's the frustration. You're punching the pillow and you're thinking about, okay, what could I have done? Should I have done this if I made that shot? Then secondly, you're thinking about, okay, what next? Get back to work. All you can do is control the controllables, get in the gym, make sure that you're, perfecting your game and be ready for that call-up. And hopefully you're getting a job to be able to prove on yourself for next season. As Giannis Antetokounmpo says, there's no such thing as failure.
Absolutely right.
You're constantly working to build and get better and keep on improving.
I'm not arguing Giannis, that's for sure. What about from a coaching perspective? Same question. What's Atiba going to be looking at? How's he going to reflect? How does he go again?
So he's going to be thinking about what players he wants to retain, what kind of look they want to kind of go for, what players are available. There's a lot of different questions that he's going. It's even harder for the coaches. You don't have time to rest. You automatically have to start thinking about what next.
All right, that is the end of the road for the Sheffield Sharks. There is a silver lining of sorts. They've got Kieran Achara's play of the day, and it was a play that dropped pretty early on in proceedings. the Pipkins slam. Talk us through this one.
And this is what I thought. Off to the races to start the game off. Pipkins high-flying, big steal. You know what I have to say here? That was disgusting.
Well, that is a consolation prize for Jalen Pipkins, but a decent one at that as well. And he'll have that on the highlight reel forever. So that is the end of the line for the Sheffield Sharks. The Leicester Riders roll on. Let's take a look at the playoff picture as it stands with that result locked in. Well, the only game that isn't resolved is at the top of your screen, but it pretty much is, barring something extraordinary happening. The Lions carry a 30-point lead into their second leg against the Newcastle Eagles tomorrow at Crystal Palace. Confirmation that Leicester winning by 7 on aggregate in our tie. The Manchester Giants blown away by Bristol. Back-to-back wins for the Flyers. The damage done in the first leg, of course. And then Caledonia going out to Cheshire, which means that Cheshire most likely are going to be playing the London Lions. But the Sheffield Sharks out, the Riders roll on, and they'll be facing the Bristol Flyers. Let's talk about that likely Lions-Cheshire tie. The Lions are going to be heavy favourites for that. Is there any argument that Cheshire could steal it, could nick it, could provide the upset?
Are we saying that the Newcastle Eagles and Drew Lasker's not believing in on winning that?
If you don't tell him, I won't.
No, I think that Cheshire have been playing some great basketball. They're playing with a depth of 7 players at the moment because of injuries. But London Lions, they're just been exceptional.
They are the team to beat, aren't they? But I wonder if we are going to see the team that could take the title next week. Our semi-final confirmation is the Riders and Flyers, and what a game that is going to be. And as with today, it is going to be the semi-final second leg. So it'll be decided next Sunday, as today, on air at 5 o'clock. Sky Sports Action, and as always, Sky Sports YouTube. And they are playing for the big prize, the BBL playoff final, coupled with the WBBL final as well. Our coverage live from the O2 Arena in a fortnight's time on Sky Sports Action and YouTube from 12:45. Make sure you join us for that one. Make sure you join us next week. The Riders roll on. Are they going to retain their title? They're making a pretty good run at it. We'll see you then. Bye for now.